Tonight on Breaking the News, from foliage to football, fall is hitting its peak this weekend, and we're here for it. Jamie has the best place to see the changing leaves and breaks down the weather for a big sports weekend. And speaking of that, there is no more fall baseball at Target Field, but the front office fallout continues after the Twins fell short of the playoffs. Plus, trying to get a big green symbol of working together back on the road after more than 2 decades.
Orange? Who made the console orange?
Then, how did it feel when an animated movie about a Minnesota transplant created by an actual Minnesotan became the biggest movie in the world this year? Jana sits down with the creator of Inside Out 2 to find out. And thanks for joining us tonight. Fall is hitting its stride, and whether you're a runner or a fan of football, foliage, or fall festivals, it's the perfect weekend to get outside. The colors are just starting to pop up north, and these beautiful fiery scenes will only last a few weeks. So, Jamie, what do you got to tell us about what's in store and where we can see the best color?
Well, like you said, the colors are really starting to pop across the northern half of the region, especially far northern Minnesota, as expected for this time of year. There's a look. This is the latest from the DNR in that fall color report. You can see up around Bemidji direction as you move towards the Arrowhead. Some really good-looking colors there, and we'll continue to see these colors still begin to pop further and further as time goes on. But it is very nice to see conditions like this with some good colors, and again, this will all migrate south. As far as the weekend's concerned, it'll be a nice warm day to look at those leaves, but it'll be windy for tomorrow. A little cooler there on Sunday, but still windy. So the concern would be how much are these winds going to do to taking down some of these leaves. But all in all, another great weekend coming up.
All right, thanks, Jamie. As I mentioned at the top, it's also a big weekend for Minnesota sports. And before I get into all the exciting stuff, I do have a warning here. I have to start with the bad news, and I realize even showing a baseball field right now might be triggering for Twins fans after the team's massive collapse at the end of the season. And based on that, you might not be shocked to hear that this morning the team and general manager Thad Levine parted ways. But don't call this a firing. Levine worked in tandem with President of Baseball Operations Derek Falvey for 8 years. And according to Twins reporter Dan Hayes, who broke the story for The Athletic, this likely came down to 2 factors: Levine's desire to lead his own team and the Twins' well-known desire to cut costs.
I was skeptical of myself. I went in thinking that this was not a parting of the ways, but you could tell that, Thad Levine is definitely looking for a little bit more than he was possibly going to be doing going forward. But he didn't seem like he holds ill will either. I think other people are capable of doing some of the things that he's tasked with. And it's an easy way to save some money because there has not been talk so far of replacing the GM title.
Oof, I don't know how Twins fans are going to deal with that, but we don't have to talk about that now because we can talk about the Lynx. They're still very much in the running to bring home another championship. They just tipped off a crucial Game 3 on the road against the Connecticut Sun. The best-of-5 series is currently tied 1-1, and the Sun will also host Game 4 on Sunday. But if needed, Game 5 will be right back here in Minneapolis on Tuesday. And now to football. Tomorrow, it's a battle for maroon and gold supremacy under the lights at Huntington Bank Stadium. The University of Minnesota will see how it stacks up against the expanded Big Ten Conference as the University of Southern California comes to town. The Trojans are ranked 11th in the country, but the Gophers could change that at 6:30 Saturday night. And, of course, we can't forget about the Vikings' huge game across the pond. They're hoping to keep their undefeated season rolling with a win against the Jets in London. And speaking of that, you don't have to go anywhere or even change the channel, for that matter, to watch the game. Get up early with us Sunday morning for an hour-long preview show. Our coverage starts at 7:30, and kickoff is an hour later, right here, of course, on Kare 11. Well, thousands of runners will also be up bright and early Sunday for the Twin Cities Marathon. One of those people is Braden Wiedemann, who found out running is the best way to relieve his pain after a horrific crash. Gordon Severson shares this story tonight about how the Twin Cities Marathon ended up being the best form of medicine.
Every runner has a reason to run. For some, it's to lose weight, others to compete. But for Braden Wiedemann,
right now, 6 days a week.
running
Yeah, it's been a lot.
helps with the pain.
The days that I didn't run, like I was having more back pain than the days that I did.
Wiedemann suffers from severe back pain that stems from a serious car accident that happened 8 years ago.
I just turned 19 and I did break L1 through L5 in my back.
He was in a wheelchair for a few months, and doctors wondered if he would ever run again.
When that happened, it kind of put a halt to all athletics.
To help with the pain, Wiedemann had a stimulator surgically inserted into his back last summer, and within a few weeks, he was running again and feeling great.
After I found out I could run a 5K, then I wanted to run a 10K, and then I wanted to run a half marathon, and that felt really good.
His New Year's resolution was to run his first full marathon, so he signed up to run the Twin Cities Marathon this weekend.
I mean, my watch is telling me that I can do it in 3:27, and it has a map of the course, and so we'll see.
Whether he reaches that time or not, just finishing the race will be a major accomplishment. But he won't stop there. Now that he's running again, he says he won't be stopping anytime soon.
I mean, I think a triathlon would be fun to do. You know, I'm always looking for the next thing to do.
In Waite Park, Gordon Severson, Kare 11 News.
If you can't make it to the race, you can watch our More Than a Marathon live. Streaming starts at 6:30 Sunday morning across all of Kare 11's digital platforms. Right now in southern Minnesota, history is coming back to life in the form of a big green bus. It belonged to the late DFL Senator Paul Wellstone. And as John Croman found out, there's a bigger mission behind getting this bus back on the road.
So this is it. This is it right here. I mean, this is the time capsule, untouched.
Time has taken a toll on the iconic Wellstone bus, but the late senator's son David has launched an effort to revive it.
It's going to be, in January, a whole new animal.
It's an ambitious rehab project with the help of a lot of friends, including Benjamin Bus in Northfield, which is handling the mechanical part of the overhaul for what Wellstone hopes will be a touring beacon of hope, healing, and unity.
Public service is why he got into office, and I think people are not as excited anymore about politics, young people in particular, and I think we're very divided. And so I'm hoping that this can be a way to bring people together and also excite folks about what politics can really be about.
The 1968 Chevy school bus had already been converted into a camping bus by the time the Wellstone campaign bought it in 1990. It became symbolic of the upstart underdog Senate campaign of a Carleton College professor turned activist.
It's like Leona Helmsley lecturing Mother Teresa on charity.
I do remember even the Democrats, when he wanted talk about underdog, no one wanted him. They even thought, who is this wild guy?
The green bus was featured in the Firebrand Liberals' groundbreaking unconventional TV ads.
I've been a teacher for 24 years. Labor endorsed.
Paul Wellstone
that helped propel him to an upset victory over incumbent Rudy Boschwitz. Those old wheels didn't hold up as well as the politician in it. It had to stop for emergency repairs on its victory lap to D.C.
I think it broke down 3 times on that trip to D.C. Paul Scott and Dick Miller were the drivers, and they both had some mechanical chops. We're lucky that we got Benjamin Bus here, the Northfield company, that's got some really great mechanics on it. So hopefully once they get it up and running, and I'm going to be the driver, they're going to train me.
The interior is pretty much as it was when David's parents and sister and 5 others died in a 2002 plane crash, and he'll keep it that way.
He would sit here with staff. They'd go over stuff as they were going to their next thing. This was his spot.
The revamped bus will also include his dad's speeches on a loop.
Politics is about lessening human suffering, and politics is about advancing the cause of peace and justice in our world. That's why we're here tonight. That's what we believe in.
He was a wonderful speaker, and he spoke with conviction because he believed everything he was saying, and I would love to have that.
You might say only a dreamer could look at this old bus and see a teaching museum on wheels, but dreaming big runs in David Wellstone's family.
That's what the bus is going to do. It's going to touch people. To me, there's the bus, but then there's how it's going to affect people.
Yeah.
And I think that's the big thing, right?
In Northfield, John Croman, Kare 11 News.
Now it's time to recap some of the other big stories making headlines tonight. Here's Chris.
A 10-year-old boy is in custody tonight after police say he drove a stolen car onto a North Minneapolis school playground packed with kids. Surveillance video shows it happening at Nellie Stone Johnson School in September. You can see the car driving on the grass and sidewalk near several kids and adults. Incredibly, no one was hurt. MPD says the child's been arrested at least twice before for crimes related to auto theft and that he's a suspect in more than a dozen other cases. Police Chief Brian O'Hara says the boy's family has been cooperative in trying to get him help. Former President Donald Trump back on the campaign trail this weekend, returning to Butler, Pennsylvania Saturday, where he was nearly assassinated earlier this year. Trump's running mate, Senator J.D. Vance, will join the rally, and it will likely feature a remembrance for Kare, the former fire chief who died in the July shooting. Small and mid-sized Minnesota communities are about to get a huge boost. Today, Minnesota Housing announced nearly $40 million toward building hundreds of new rental properties in greater Minnesota, with those rents staying at market rate. Housing Minnesota says communities with less than 30,000 people with a track record of job growth and demand for housing will get the money for the rentals. And Marshall Mathers, Slim Shady, you might know him as Eminem, he is gonna be a grandpa. Feel old yet? He revealed it to the world in a music video for his new single Temporary, which is dedicated to his daughter, Haley. She brings the house down at the end of it by surprising him with a picture of an ultrasound and a jersey reading Grandpa.
Well, the biggest movie in the world this year has big ties to Minnesota. When we come back, the creator of Inside Out 2 tells Jana how he found a way to make a hugely successful movie about a topic few people even want to talk about.